In the last episode, humanity teetered on the brink of collapse, ravaged by environmental disaster and societal upheaval. The once blue skies were now a hazy gray, and the air reeked of smoke and desperation. The few remaining cities were walled off, struggling to survive against the backdrop of a dying planet. It was into this bleak world that Ambrose Wynter, a brilliant and driven entrepreneur, emerged with a vision to reclaim and rebuild. As I stood at the edge of New Eden, the makeshift metropolis I had helped establish, I gazed out upon the ruins of civilization. The sprawling metropolis was a testament to human resilience, a beacon of hope in a desolate world. I took a deep breath, feeling the cool evening air fill my lungs, and began my walk towards the city's central square. The streets were alive with activity, the sounds of hammering, drilling, and laughter filling the air. People of all ages and backgrounds moved with purpose, their faces etched with determination. I nodded in greeting as I passed by, acknowledging the familiar faces. They knew me as Ambrose, the man who had brought them hope. My thoughts turned to the journey that had brought me here. The early days of struggle, of scrounging for resources, of fighting to survive. The memories still lingered, etched in my mind like scars, but I had persevered, driven by a vision of a better future. As I entered the central square, I was greeted by the hum of activity. Technicians and engineers worked tirelessly to assemble the latest shipment of equipment, their faces lit by the soft glow of holographic displays. I spotted Rachel, my chief engineer, and made my way towards her. "Ambrose, we've got a problem," she said, her voice laced with concern. "What's the situation?" I asked, my eyes scanning the area. "One of our scouts has gone missing," she replied, her brow furrowed. "We've had no word from him in hours." I frowned, a sense of unease settling in. We couldn't afford to lose anyone, not now. "Get a team together," I said, my mind racing with possibilities. "We'll need to move quickly." As Rachel nodded and began to assemble a team, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The missing scout was just the tip of the iceberg. I had a sense that there were larger forces at play, forces that threatened the fragile balance of power in the galaxy. The stars twinkled above, a reminder of the vast unknown that lay beyond our small, beleaguered world. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I contemplated the challenges ahead. We had come so far, but the journey was far from over. "I'll need to speak with the council," I said to Rachel, my mind already racing with strategies. The Galactic Council, with its Byzantine politics and petty squabbles, was a minefield I had been avoiding. But now, with the missing scout and the growing sense of unease, I knew I had to take action. As I made my way to the council chambers, a sense of trepidation settled in. What secrets lay hidden in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered? And what lay in store for humanity, now that we had begun to make our mark on the galaxy? The council chambers loomed ahead, a towering structure that seemed to pierce the sky like a shard of glass. I steeled myself for what lay ahead, knowing that the fate of humanity hung in the balance. I took a deep breath and stepped into the unknown. The council chamber was a cavernous space, filled with representatives from the various alien species that made up the Galactic Council. I spotted Kale, the imposing figure of the Kralian delegate, and made my way towards him. "Ambrose Wynter," a voice boomed, echoing off the walls. I turned to face the speaker, my eyes locking onto the figure of Archaea, the enigmatic leader of the Zorvath. "We have received reports of your endeavors," Archaea said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Your attempts to rebuild humanity." I stood tall, meeting her gaze. "We mean no harm," I said, my voice firm. "We seek only to survive, to thrive in a galaxy that seems determined to crush us." The room fell silent, the weight of Archaea's words hanging in the air. I knew that I had to tread carefully, to navigate the complex web of alliances and rivalries that define the Council. But I also knew that I couldn't back down. Not now, when humanity's very survival was at stake. "I'll make you a deal, Archaea," I said, a plan forming in my mind. "Let us work together and we can achieve greatness. Together we can build a brighter future, one that benefits all of us." The room erupted into a cacophony of voices, each delegate pushing their own agenda. I stood firm, my eyes locked onto Archaea's as I waited for her response. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I was ready to do whatever it took to ensure our survival. But as I looked around the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into a trap, one that would change the course of history forever. Archaea's gaze lingered on mine, her eyes narrowing as she considered my proposal. The room fell silent once more, the only sound the soft hum of the council chamber's environmental systems. "I propose a counteroffer," she said finally, her voice low and even. "Meet me on the neutral planet of Zeridia in 3 standard days. Come alone." The room erupted into chaos, delegates shouting and arguing as they jostled for position. I raised my hands, calling for silence. "I accept," I said, my voice clear and firm, "but I will not come alone. I will bring a small delegation, comprised of representatives from the various factions that make up humanity." Archaea's expression turned calculating, her eyes flicking towards Kale before returning to mine. "Very well," she said. "I will expect you on Zeridia in 3 standard days." I nodded, a sense of trepidation settling in. What did Archaea truly want, and what lay in store for humanity? As I left the council chamber, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into a trap, one that would change the course of history forever. I made my way back to New Eden, my mind racing with possibilities and strategies. Upon my return, I gathered my closest allies, Rachel, Jax, and a handful of others, and briefed them on the situation. "We need to be cautious," Rachel warned, her eyes serious. "Archaea's not one to be trusted." "I know," I said, my jaw clenched, "but we have to try. We can't let fear hold us back, not when the fate of humanity hangs in the balance." Jax nodded, his face set in determination. "We've got your back, Ambrose. Whatever happens on Zeridia, we'll be right there with you." I nodded, a sense of gratitude washing over me. With my team by my side, I felt a sense of confidence, a sense that we could overcome any obstacle. But as we made our way to the docking bay, preparing to depart for Zeridia, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were walking into a storm, one that would test our resolve and our strength. The stars twinkled above, a reminder of the vast unknown that lay ahead. I steeled myself for what was to come, knowing that the fate of humanity hung in the balance. As we lifted off into the unknown, I felt a sense of determination, a sense that I would do whatever it took to secure humanity's place in the galaxy. Little did I know, the greatest challenge of my life was yet to come. We touched down on Zeridia's barren surface, the planet's twin suns casting an ominous glow over the desolate landscape. I stepped out of the shuttle, my eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of Archaea or her entourage. The air was thick with tension, the silence between us palpable. I could feel the weight of the galaxy's gaze upon us, the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. And then in the distance I saw her. Archaea, flanked by a retinue of Zorvath guards, her eyes fixed on mine with an unnerving intensity. It was time to negotiate to secure humanity's place in the galaxy. But as I approached Archaea, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into a trap, one that would change the course of history forever. I smiled, a gesture of confidence and calm, though my heart raced beneath my chest. "Archaea," I said, my voice firm, "it's been a long time." She didn't return the smile, her expression unreadable. "Ambrose," she replied, her voice like ice. "You're as bold as ever. I'll give you that." I shrugged, my eyes locked on hers. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Archaea's gaze flicked to my companions, her eyes lingering on each of them. "I see you've brought a small delegation as promised. I must admit, I'm intrigued by your choice of companions." I nodded, a sense of pride swelling within me. "These are the best of humanity, Archaea. The brightest minds, the bravest warriors. We're not just a bunch of ragtag refugees anymore." Her expression remained neutral, though I detected a flicker of curiosity in her eyes. "I'm glad to see that. Perhaps it's time for us to discuss the terms of our agreement." I nodded, my heart racing with anticipation. This was it, the moment of truth. Would Archaea propose a mutually beneficial alliance, or would she reveal a sinister plot to crush humanity once and for all? Let's get down to business, I said, my voice firm. I'm willing to listen to your proposal, but I warn you, Archaea humanity will not be swayed by empty promises. We need concrete assurances, tangible benefits. Archaea's eyes narrowed, her gaze piercing. I think you'll find my proposal enlightening, Ambrose. Follow me. She turned, her retinue of Zorvath guards falling in step behind her. I followed, my companions close at my heels as we made our way across the barren landscape of Zeridia. The silence between us was oppressive, the only sound the soft crunch of gravel beneath our feet. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were walking into a trap, that Archaea had something up her sleeve. We approached a sprawling structure, its walls a deep, foreboding purple. Archaea led us inside, the air thick with an otherworldly energy. A large, circular table dominated the center of the room, surrounded by chairs that seemed to be grown from the very fabric of the structure itself. Archaea took her seat at the head of the table, her eyes fixed on mine. "Please, Ambrose," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm, "take a seat. Let's discuss the future of humanity." I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to be cautious. But I had to know what Archaea had planned, had to know what lay in store for humanity. I sat, my companions taking their seats around the table. Archaea's eyes locked on mine, her gaze piercing. "Let's get started," she said, a cold, calculated smile spreading across her face. And with that, the fate of humanity hung in the balance as Archaea's proposal sent shivers down my spine. "An alliance between our species," Archaea began, her voice dripping with conviction. "One that will cement our places as the dominant powers in the galaxy." I raised an eyebrow, my mind racing with the implications. "Go on." Archaea's smile grew wider, her eyes glinting with excitement. "I propose that we merge our resources, our knowledge and our militaries. Together, we can conquer the remaining factions and bring order to the galaxy." I leaned back in my chair, my eyes never leaving hers. "And what of humanity's autonomy? We've fought too hard to gain independence to simply hand it over to the Zorvath." Archaea's expression turned calculating, her voice taking on a conciliatory tone. "I understand your concerns, Ambrose, but think of it this way. With our combined strength, we can ensure humanity's safety and prosperity for generations to come. You will still retain control over your people, but we will work together to guide the course of the galaxy." I studied her, searching for any hidden motives, but Archaea's face remained a mask of sincerity. "What of the other factions?" I asked, my mind racing with the complexities of intergalactic politics. "Will they not resist our alliance?" Archaea's smile turned cold, her eyes glinting with ruthless determination. "We will deal with them, Ambrose. Together, we will crush any opposition and forge a new era of peace and prosperity." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I gazed into her eyes. There was something unsettling about her words, something that didn't quite add up. "I need time to consider your proposal," I said finally, my voice firm. Archaea's expression didn't change, but I detected a flicker of annoyance in her eyes. "Very well, Ambrose. But know this, time is running out. The galaxy will not wait for humanity to make up its mind." I nodded, my mind racing with the implications of her words. As I rose from my seat, my companions followed suit, their faces set with determination. "We will consider your proposal, Archaea," I said, my voice firm. "But make no mistake, humanity will not be swayed by empty promises. We demand concrete assurances, tangible benefits." Archaea's smile returned, her eyes glinting with amusement. "I expected as much, Ambrose. Very well, I will leave you to your deliberations. But do not think you have long to decide. The fate of humanity hangs in the balance." I nodded, my heart racing with anticipation. As we left the Purple Keep, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were walking into a trap, that Archaea had something sinister planned. But I pushed the thoughts aside, focusing on the task at hand. I had to weigh the pros and cons of Archaea's proposal to determine what was best for humanity. As we emerged into the bright light of Zeridia's dual suns, I felt a sense of trepidation wash over me. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I was the only one who could tip the scales. I turned to my companions, my eyes locking on theirs. We need to discuss this, to weigh our options carefully. We cannot afford to make a mistake. They nodded, their faces set with determination. Together, we walked back to our shuttle, our footsteps echoing across the barren landscape of Zeridia. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I was the only one who could shape its destiny. As we boarded the shuttle, the tension was palpable. My companions' faces were set with concern, their eyes locked on mine as if searching for answers. I knew I had to remain calm, to think clearly if we were to navigate the treacherous waters of intergalactic politics. "All right, let's get down to business," I said, taking a deep breath. "We need to weigh the pros and cons of Archaea's proposal. What are the benefits of an alliance with the Zorvath?" Vexa, ever the pragmatist, spoke up first. "We'd gain access to their advanced technology, Ambrose. Their war machines could give us the edge we need to defend ourselves against rival factions." I nodded, my mind racing with the implications. "And what of the risks? What could we potentially lose?" Kale, my loyal friend and strategist, frowned. "We'd be sacrificing our autonomy, Ambrose. The Zorvath would have a say in our decision-making process, and who knows how far their influence would stretch." I nodded, my thoughts echoing Kale's concerns. "Exactly. And what of the other factions? Would they truly accept our alliance, or would they see it as a threat?" Lysander, ever the diplomat, spoke up. "We'd need to negotiate with them, Ambrose. Convince them that our alliance is in their best interests, that it would bring stability to the galaxy." I raised an eyebrow, my mind racing with the complexities of intergalactic politics. "And what of the Zorvath's true intentions? What if they're just using us to further their own agenda?" The room fell silent, my companions' faces reflecting the weight of my words. I knew I had to make a decision, but it couldn't be based on emotions or hasty judgments. I needed cold, hard facts. "I want you all to dig deep," I said, my voice firm. "Gather intelligence on the Zorvath's true intentions, on their military capabilities, on any potential weaknesses. I need to know everything before I make a decision." My companions nodded, their faces set with determination. I knew I could count on them to deliver. As we soared through the skies, headed back to our stronghold, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were running out of time. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I was the only one who could tip the scales. I turned to my companions, my eyes locking on theirs. "We need to move fast. The Zorvath won't wait forever, and neither will our enemies. We must be prepared for any eventuality." Their faces reflected my determination, and I knew that together we would face whatever challenges lay ahead. But as we landed back at our stronghold, a strange energy signature caught my attention. It was faint but unmistakable, a signal from an unknown source broadcast on a secure frequency. I frowned, my mind racing with the implications. Who could be sending us a message, and what did they want? I turned to Vexa, my eyes locking on hers. "Can you trace the signal?" She nodded, her face set with concentration. "I'm on it, Ambrose." As she worked her magic, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were about to uncover a secret that would change the course of our destiny. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. But little did I know, the message we were about to receive would shatter everything I thought I knew about the galaxy. And about myself. The silence was oppressive, thick with anticipation as Vexa worked to trace the mysterious signal. My companions' eyes were fixed on me, their faces reflecting a mix of curiosity and concern. I knew that whatever this message was, it had the potential to upend our fragile balance of power. "I've got it," Vexa said finally, her voice low and urgent. "The signal's coming from an abandoned research facility on the edge of the galaxy." I raised an eyebrow, my mind racing with possibilities. "What kind of facility?" Vexa's eyes locked on mine. "It was a black ops lab, Ambrose. The kind of place where they'd cook up nightmare scenarios and then try to make them a reality." My gut twisted with unease. What kind of message could be coming from a place like that, and who could be sending it? "Let's hear it," I said, my voice firm. Vexa nodded, her fingers flying across the console. A moment later, the room was filled with the sound of static and then a voice low, gravelly, and menacing. "Ambrose Wynter," it said, "you're a hard man to find. But I've been watching you. I've been waiting." I felt a shiver run down my spine, my mind racing with questions. Who was this? What did they want? The voice continued, its tone dripping with malice. "You think you're a player in the galaxy, Ambrose. You think you can dance with the big boys and come out on top. But you're wrong. You're just a pawn in a game you don't even understand." I clenched my jaw, my anger rising. Who was this to question my abilities? "I know what you're after," the voice said, its tone dripping with contempt. "You want to unite the galaxy under human rule. But you're too late. The game's already been won and you're just a footnote in the history books." I felt my companions' eyes on me, their faces set with concern. I knew I had to keep my cool, to think clearly if I was to uncover the truth behind this message. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice firm. The voice laughed, the sound sending shivers down my spine. "Oh, Ambrose, I want to show you the truth. I want to show you the secrets the galaxy's been hiding from you. And I want to give you a choice to join me or to die." The line went dead, leaving us staring at each other in stunned silence. I knew that I had to make a decision, and fast. But what choice did I really have? The silence that followed was like a living, breathing entity, its heavy presence weighing us down. My mind was racing, trying to process the implications of the message. Who was this mysterious figure and what did they want from me? I glanced around the room, meeting the eyes of my companions. They were waiting for me to make a move, to tell them what to do next, but I was stumped. I had no idea what was going on or what this person wanted from me. "Vexa," I said, breaking the silence, "can you trace the signal back to its source?" Vexa nodded, her eyes already fixed on the console in front of her. "I'm trying, Ambrose, but it's like nothing I've seen before. The signal's encrypted and it's bouncing off satellites all over the galaxy." I nodded, my mind racing. This was clearly someone who knew what they were doing, someone who had access to advanced technology and resources. "What about the facility?" I asked, turning to Lyra, my chief of security. "Can we send a team to investigate?" Lyra nodded, her expression grim. "I can assemble a team, Ambrose, but we need to be careful. We don't know what we're up against." I nodded, my mind made up. "Do it. I want to know what's going on, and I want to know now." As Lyra turned to leave, I caught her arm. "Lyra, be careful. Whatever this is, it's big, and I don't want to lose anyone." Lyra nodded, her eyes locked on mine. "I'll be careful, Ambrose, I promise." I watched as she left the room, my mind still racing with questions. Who was this mysterious figure and what did they want from me? And what secrets was the galaxy hiding from me? I turned to Vexa, who was still working on tracing the signal. "Vexa, how's it going?" Vexa's eyes flicked up to mine, her expression tense. "I've got something, Ambrose, but it's not what I expected." I felt a shiver run down my spine. "What is it?" Vexa hesitated, her eyes locked on mine. "The signal's coming from a ship, Ambrose. A ship that's been destroyed for years." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "What ship?" Vexa's eyes dropped, her voice barely above a whisper. "The Celestial Hope." I felt a chill run down my spine. The Celestial Hope was a ship that had gone missing years ago, a ship that had been carrying some of the most advanced technology in the galaxy. And now, it seemed, it was back and it was sending me a message. I took a deep breath, my mind racing. This was getting stranger by the minute. But I knew one thing: I had to find out what was going on, no matter what the cost. "I want to know more," I said, my voice firm. "I want to know what's going on, and I want to know now." Vexa nodded, her eyes locked on mine. "I'll keep working on it, Ambrose, but I think we're running out of time." I nodded, my jaw clenched. I knew that time was of the essence, and I was ready to do whatever it took to uncover the truth. The silence that followed was palpable, the weight of Vexa's words hanging heavy in the air. I could feel the tension building, my companion's eyes fixed on me, waiting for my next move. I took a deep breath, my mind racing with questions. "What do you mean, Vexa?" I asked, my voice low and even. "How can the Celestial Hope be sending us a message if it's been destroyed?" Vexa's eyes dropped, her brow furrowed in concentration. I don't know, Ambrose, but I think we're dealing with something much bigger than we initially thought. I nodded, my gut telling me that Vexa was right. This was no ordinary message, no ordinary ship. The Celestial Hope was a legendary vessel, one that had been at the forefront of humanity's push into the galaxy. I want to know more, I said, my voice firm. I want to know what kind of technology is capable of sending a message from a destroyed ship. Vexa nodded, her eyes flashing back to the console in front of her. I'll keep working on it, Ambrose, but I think we're getting close to the truth. I turned to Lyra, my chief of security. Lyra, how's the team coming along? Lyra nodded, her expression grim. Thayer assembled and ready to move out, Ambrose. But I want to reiterate, we're flying blind here. We don't know what we're up against. I nodded, my mind made up. I know, Lyra, but we can't afford to wait. We need to get to the bottom of this, no matter what the cost. As Lyra turned to leave, I caught her arm. Lyra, be careful. Whatever this is, it's big, and I don't want to lose anyone. Lyra nodded, her eyes locked on mine. I'll be careful, Ambrose, I promise. I watched as she left the room, my mind still racing with questions. What was the Celestial Hope? What kind of technology was capable of sending a message from a destroyed ship? And what secrets was the galaxy hiding from me? I turned to Vexa, who was still working on tracing the signal. Vexa, how's it going? Vexa's eyes flicked up to mine, her expression tense. I've got something, Ambrose, but it's not what I expected. I felt a shiver run down my spine. What is it? Vexa hesitated, her eyes locked on mine. I think I've found the source of the signal, Ambrose. But it's not a ship, it's a planet. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. What planet? Vexa's eyes dropped, her voice barely above a whisper. Zeridiaroman 4. I felt a chill run down my spine. Zeridiaroman 4 was a planet on the edge of the galaxy, a planet that was rumored to be cursed. And now it seemed it was the source of the mysterious message. I took a deep breath, my mind racing. This was getting stranger by the minute. But I knew one thing: I had to find out what was going on, no matter what the cost. I want to know more, I said, my voice firm. I want to know what's going on, and I want to know now. Vexa nodded, her eyes locked on mine. I'll keep working on it, Ambrose, but I think we're running out of time. I nodded, my jaw clenched. I knew that time was of the essence, and I was ready to do whatever it took to uncover the truth. As I stood there, my mind racing with questions, I knew that I was about to embark on a journey that would change everything. I was about to uncover secrets that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy, and I was ready. Let's do this, I said, my voice firm. Let's find out what's going on, and let's take control of our destiny. The room fell silent, my companion's eyes fixed on me. And I knew that we were all in this together. We were all in this for the ride of our lives. The silence was broken by the hum of the console, Vexa's fingers flying across the keyboard as she worked to uncover more information. I could feel the tension building, my companion's eyes fixed on me, waiting for my next move. All right, let's get to it, I said, my voice firm. Vexa, how long until we can pinpoint the exact location of the signal on Zeridiaroman 4? Vexa's eyes flicked up to mine, her expression tense. I'm working on it, Ambrose, but it's not going to be easy. The planet's atmosphere is heavily distorted, making it difficult to get a clear reading. I nodded, my mind racing with possibilities. Keep working on it, Vexa. I want to know what we're up against. I turned to Lyra, who was watching me with a calculating gaze. Lyra, assemble a team and get them ready to move out. We'll need to be prepared for anything. Lyra nodded, her expression grim. I'll get it done, Ambrose, but I want to reiterate, we're going in blind. We don't know what kind of threats are waiting for us on Zeridiaroman 4. I nodded, my jaw clenched. I know, Lyra, but we can't afford to wait. We need to get to the bottom of this, no matter what the cost. As Lyra turned to leave, I caught her arm. Lyra, make sure the team is equipped with everything they need. We don't know what kind of technology we'll be facing. Lyra nodded, her eyes locked on mine. I'll make sure Thayer ready, Ambrose, but we need to be prepared for the unexpected. This could get ugly. I nodded, my mind racing with possibilities. I knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in our journey, and I was ready for whatever came next. As Lyra left the room, I turned to Vexa, who was still working on tracing the signal. "Vexa, how's it going?" Vexa's eyes flicked up to mine, her expression tense. "I've got something, Ambrose, but it's not what I expected." I felt a shiver run down my spine. "What is it?" Vexa's eyes dropped, her voice barely above a whisper. "I think I've found a pattern in the signal, Ambrose. It's not just a random transmission, it's a warning." I felt a chill run down my spine. "A warning? What kind of warning?" Vexa's eyes locked on mine, her expression grim. "I don't know, Ambrose, but I think we're running out of time. Whatever is sending this signal, it's trying to warn us of something big." I took a deep breath, my mind racing with possibilities. This was getting stranger by the minute, but I knew one thing: I had to find out what was going on, no matter what the cost. "I want to know more," I said, my voice firm. "I want to know what this warning is, and I want to know now." Vexa nodded, her eyes locked on mine. "I'll keep working on it, Ambrose, but I think we're running out of time. Whatever is sending this signal, it's not going to wait for us." I nodded, my jaw clenched. I knew that time was of the essence, and I was ready to do whatever it took to uncover the truth. As I stood there, my mind racing with questions, I knew that I was about to embark on a journey that would change everything. I was about to uncover secrets that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy, and I was ready. "Let's do this," I said, my voice firm. "Let's find out what's going on, and let's take control of our destiny." The room fell silent, my companion's eyes fixed on me. And I knew that we were all in this together, we were all in this for the ride of our lives. Suddenly, the console beeped, Vexa's eyes flashing up to mine. "Ambrose, I've got something," she said, her voice urgent. "I've managed to pinpoint the location of the signal. It's coming from an ancient temple on Zeridiroman 4. I felt a shiver run down my spine. An ancient temple. This was getting stranger by the minute. But I knew one thing: I had to get to the bottom of this, no matter what the cost. "Let's move out," I said, my voice firm. "We've got a temple to explore." The room erupted into action, my companions scrambling to prepare for our journey. And I knew that we were all in this together, we were all in this for the ride of our lives. As we prepared to leave, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and trepidation. What secrets lay hidden on Zeridiroman 4? And what dangers awaited us in the ancient temple? I took a deep breath, my mind racing with questions. But I knew one thing: I was ready for whatever came next. I was ready to uncover the truth, no matter what the cost. "Let's do this," I said, my voice firm. "Let's find out what's going on, and let's take control of our destiny." And with that, we set out on our journey, ready to face whatever lay ahead as we descended onto the ravaged surface of Zeridiroman 4. The eerie silence was palpable. The once lush planet now lay barren, its skies tainted by a toxic haze. Our shuttle's engines died down, and the team fell quiet, their eyes scanning the desolate landscape. I gazed out at the ancient temple, its crumbling spires reaching towards the sky like skeletal fingers. The structure seemed to whisper secrets, its weathered stones bearing the weight of forgotten civilizations. "Lyra, take point," I said, my voice low and even. "Vexa, stay close. We don't know what kind of tech we'll encounter in there." Lyra nodded, her handgun at the ready. Vexa fell in beside her, her eyes fixed on the temple's entrance. I followed, my heart pounding in anticipation. As we entered the temple, the air grew thick with an otherworldly energy. I could feel the weight of history bearing down upon us, the whispers of ancient secrets echoing through the chambers. "This place is creepy," Lyra murmured, her voice barely audible. "I know," I replied, my eyes scanning the walls, "but we need to push on. Whatever is sending that signal, it's hiding something." We delved deeper into the temple, navigating treacherous tunnels and avoiding deadly traps. Every step felt like a gamble, every breath a calculated risk. Suddenly, Vexa halted, her eyes fixed on a cryptic symbol etched into the wall. "Ambrose, look at this," she whispered. I approached her, my mind racing with possibilities. The symbol seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, its meaning lost to the sands of time. "What does it mean?" I asked, my voice low. Vex's eyes flicked up to mine. I think it's a warning. Whatever is sending that signal, it's trying to tell us something. I felt a shiver run down my spine. What kind of warning? Vex's eyes dropped, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know, Ambrose, but I think we're getting close to the truth. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in anticipation. We were on the cusp of something momentous, something that could change the course of history forever. Let's move on, I said, my voice firm. We're running out of time. As we ventured deeper into the temple, the air grew thick with an electric sense of foreboding. I could feel the weight of destiny bearing down upon us, the fate of humanity hanging precariously in the balance. And then, without warning, the temple began to shake. The ground trembled beneath our feet and the air filled with the sound of rumbling thunder. What's happening? Lyra shouted, her voice barely audible above the din. I glanced up, my eyes fixed on the ceiling. The temple was collapsing, its ancient stones crumbling beneath the weight of some long-forgotten secret. We need to get out of here now, I yelled, my voice hoarse with urgency. But it was too late. The temple's walls began to close in, the sound of crashing stone echoing through the chambers. We were trapped, our fate sealed. And in that moment, I knew that we were staring into the abyss, the unknown depths of which would change humanity forever. The world around us crumbled. The once stable temple now a chaotic mess of falling debris and crumbling stone. I grabbed Lyra and Vexa, pulling them close as we desperately sought shelter from the implosion. The air was thick with dust, and the screams of ancient machinery, the roar of the collapse deafening. We stumbled forward, our feet pounding against the stone floor as we desperately sought an exit. The walls seemed to be closing in, the sound of crashing stone growing louder with every step. I could feel the weight of the temple bearing down on us, the pressure building with each passing moment. Suddenly, a blast of energy ripped through the chamber, sending us flying across the room. I landed hard on the stone floor, my head spinning as I struggled to regain my footing. Lyra and Vexa were already up, their eyes scanning the room for any sign of danger. What was that? Lyra shouted, her voice barely audible above the din. I shook my head, my ears still ringing from the blast. I don't know, but we need to get out of here now. The temple was still collapsing around us, the sound of falling stone growing louder with every passing moment. We knew we had to move, and fast, if we wanted to survive. I grabbed Lyra and Vexa, pulling them close as we made a break for the exit. The air was thick with dust and debris, making it impossible to see more than a few feet in front of us. But we didn't need to see. We knew the temple was collapsing, and we knew we had to get out. We stumbled forward, our feet pounding against the stone floor as we desperately sought escape. The sound of crashing stone grew louder with every step, the pressure building in our ears. And then, suddenly, we were through the exit, stumbling out into the bright light of day. The air was cool and clean, a welcome respite from the chaos of the collapsing temple. We stumbled forward, our feet carrying us away from the destruction as we desperately sought safety. As we emerged from the temple's entrance, I could see the devastation spread out before us. The once barren landscape was now a scene of utter chaos, the temple's collapse sending shockwaves through the very fabric of the planet. The sky was darkening, the air thick with the acrid smell of smoke and ash. I turned to Lyra and Vexa, my eyes locking onto theirs. "We need to get out of here," I shouted, my voice barely audible above the din. "Now." They nodded, their eyes locked onto mine. We knew we had to move, and fast, if we wanted to survive. As we stumbled away from the temple, I couldn't help but wonder what secrets lay hidden in the ruins. What had we uncovered, and what would be the cost of our discovery? The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I knew that our journey was far from over. We didn't stop running until the temple was a distant memory, the sound of its collapse fading into the background as we stumbled through the barren landscape. The air was thick with ash and smoke, the acrid smell burning our lungs as we gasped for air. As we ran, the devastation unfolded before us. Craters pockmarked the ground, the earth scorched and blackened from the temple's collapse. The sky grew darker, the sun hidden behind a veil of ash and smoke. Finally, we reached the relative safety of a nearby ridge, the temple's destruction no longer visible from our vantage point. We collapsed onto the dusty ground, our chests heaving as we struggled to catch our breath. Lyra was the first to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. "What did we uncover?" she asked, her eyes fixed on the horizon. I shook my head, my mind still reeling from our narrow escape. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I think we stumbled into something much bigger than we ever could have imagined." Vexa's eyes locked onto mine, her gaze piercing. "We can't stay here," she warned. "The temple's collapse will have alerted the authorities. We need to get back to the Empire and fast." I nodded, my mind racing with the implications. We had uncovered a secret, one that could change the course of human history. But at what cost? As we struggled to our feet, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were running out of time. The Galactic Council would stop at nothing to silence us, to keep their secrets buried. We set off across the barren landscape, our footsteps echoing in the stillness. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I knew that our journey was far from over. As we walked, the silence between us grew thicker, the weight of our discovery settling heavy on our shoulders. We knew that we had stumbled into something much bigger than ourselves, something that could change the course of history. And I knew that I would stop at nothing to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The landscape stretched out before us, seemingly endless and unforgiving. But I knew that we couldn't stay here, couldn't hide from the secrets we had uncovered. We had to keep moving, had to keep pushing forward, no matter what lay ahead. The fate of humanity depended on it. As we walked, the silence between us grew heavier, the weight of our discovery settling heavy on our shoulders. I knew that we were running out of time, that the authorities would stop at nothing to silence us. But I also knew that I would stop at nothing to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I was ready to do whatever it took to ensure our survival. The journey ahead would be fraught with danger, with uncertainty. But I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For the first time in my life, I felt a sense of purpose, a sense of direction. I knew what I had to do, and I was ready to do it. As we walked, the landscape stretching out before us like an endless sea, I knew that our journey was far from over. But I was ready to face whatever lay ahead, ready to uncover the secrets that lay hidden in the ruins of the ancient temple. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and I was ready to do whatever it took to ensure our survival.